on this. Imagine both of your parents die side by side in hospice care, where their home, their living room, has 2 medical beds, one for mom, one for dad. Mine did. This is a true story. Happened 7 years ago. My father died of pancreatic cancer. It was a Friday morning. 2 days later, Sunday morning, my mother passed due to complications from Alzheimer's disease. Since then, I have devoted my life to raising funds for the Alzheimer's Association. In addition, I also volunteer as a hospice companion. This is why, for me, today's topic hits home. It's one that touches every family at some point in life: hospice care. It's a word that can feel heavy or unknown. It's daunting. But what I've learned through my own experience and volunteering is that hospice is not just about end of life. It's about dignity, compassion, emotional support, and often connection. This was deep. Welcome back to Sip on This, now entering our 2nd season, the show where we talk about love, life, and all the messy, beautiful transitions that make us human. If this is your first time joining me, then welcome. I'm your host, Deirdre Haggerty. Not all of our conversations will be this deep or dark. I am a certified career, life, and relationship coach and the founder of Coaching with Miss D, which offers life, relationship, and career coaching to align your values and vision of life. I am truly so excited that you are joining me today. We're going to have a conversation. It's going to be a deep one, a sad one. Coffee in hand as we chat about life, careers, relationships, and all the things that can shape who we are. I won't lecture you or tell you what to do. It's just the two of us in my cute little coffee shop behind me, chatting about topics that make us laugh, drive us nuts, make us cry, or hit us in our core. Now, I said this is going to be a sad conversation, but we do try to make some really wonderful light moments about it, because today I'm joined by Gail Rabstein, CDP, Director of Volunteers and Interns at Embracing Hospice Care. She's here to talk about what hospice actually is, who it serves, and the power of showing up for someone during one of the most vulnerable chapters of life. So please help me in welcoming Gail. Welcome to Sip on This, Gail. I'm so excited you're joining me today. How are you today?
I am great. It's nice to be here, Deirdre.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. And I know you know, because you and I have spoken about how important this topic is for me and how personal it is for me as well. And which is why I found you now, I think it was, over a year ago. And I'm very glad I did, because it's been rewarding for me. And I've loved the people that I've gotten to spend time with.
I'm so glad that you find it rewarding. It really is a rewarding position to be in. And there's nothing better than being able to give back to, people that are in such a vulnerable position in their life.
It's true. And I think with my last patient, which was so amazing to me, whenever I would walk into the facility and I'd go to the front desk to check in, and she was always in the common area, and she would hear me speaking, and her head perked up. She was looking, and she was, "Oh, you're here for me?" Oh my God, my heart would swell every time I walked in. I just enjoyed her so much. So it was amazing. So now that everybody knows what inspired me to volunteer, what inspired you to work in hospice care, and how did your journey lead you to embracing hospice care?
Yeah, so my background is education and social work. If I go way back in my history, I was a teacher for quite a while, and then moved on from teaching and I had my children. And when I went back to work, I was looking for something a little different and I got into senior care. When I got into senior care at first, I was working in a memory daycare for seniors with dementia and Alzheimer's. And it was absolutely the most rewarding position. And I honestly started to feel like, why haven't I been doing this my whole life? It's just so impactful, the difference that you can make in a senior's life. And then how I got to hospice care, I lost both of my parents at different times. My mom 9 years ago on hospice, and my dad 4 years ago, and he was also on hospice at the end. The social worker that came to my house the day that my father was transitioning was so amazing. And she left such an impact on me that when I started the journey to look for something new in my career and a new challenge for myself, I really looked at hospice care and what I could do within hospice care to make a difference in people's lives. And embracing hospice care happened to be one of the jobs that I looked at. And I really enjoy the fact that it's a family-owned company. Our owners are in the building every day. They're easily accessible. They are wonderful people. I loved that Embracing Hospice Care has a foundation that financially supports our patients as well. So if they have any immediate financial needs that they just can't do a plane ride for a relative that wants to come in, medical bills, funeral expenses, Embracing Hospice Care has a foundation that supports that. So I just love everything about the company and the philosophy of hospice so much. And the volunteer coordinator position spoke to me because I'm able to get out into the field and spend time with the patients, but I'm also making a difference in my volunteers' lives by bringing them that joy and that fulfillment and rewarding situations, giving them those rewarding situations that allow them to feel good about themselves. So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
Oh my God. I love it. I love everything about it. Obviously, it's not for everybody. Um, for me, it's rewarding because of the feeling, the companionship, the the people that I'm with. You might not even realize, just sitting there with somebody, just sitting there, just knowing that you're there for them, because for whatever reason, family's busy, they can't always get there. And I understand my husband's mom is in a facility in upstate New York. It's not easy for us to get there because we're in central Jersey, so it's not always easy for us. So I understand that. So it really is amazing that they see that. And I'm sorry that you lost your parents, but I'm so grateful that I got to meet you and that you're in this position, and here we are.
Yeah. And I've been able to grow the volunteer program with Embracing so much since I started. I've been with the company for just over a year. I started a year ago in October, so it was October of 2024. I've grown the position so much. When I started, we had 7 volunteers that were actively seeing patients. I now have 40 active volunteers.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Amazing.
I've instituted a remote volunteer position, which allows people that want to give back to the community, want to help, but they just don't have the time or the desire to be one-on-one with a patient. So they're doing like check-in calls for us where they call our patients' family members and check in with them, make sure everything is going well, checking satisfaction with our staffing, checking to make sure that they have all the supplies they need and the medications they need to get them through the weekends and things like that. So that's a role that I've created since I started. I've also reinstated our internship program where we have social work interns from local colleges that are coming in and doing their on-site internships with our social worker. So
Wow. That's incredible. Um, and it also is really good for the person. I mean, you and I were talking before this. My own husband, who's so busy, but if somebody with a schedule, such as my husband, who commutes into Manhattan every day, it's like an hour and a half trip. So we'll say, for instance, he's on the train 3 hours a day, Monday through
right.
Friday. And then for an 8 hour job, you're talking that's 11 hours out of the day. But if they really want to give back and this is something they're interested in, what's the amount of time then they would have to give to make these reach out calls?
So I have two remote volunteers right now, and they each make 5 calls a week. And they're 5 calls. Each call may last, it depends. Sometimes the person doesn't pick up, so it's like whatever 5 minutes that it takes for them to make the call. If the family member does pick up, it could be 5 minute phone conversation. It could be a 25-minute phone conversation, depending on the needs of the family. But on average, my remote volunteers have been working approximately an hour to an hour and a half a week.
Wow. Okay, that's not bad. And to be honest, I mean, I didn't even the amount of time for me driving to the facility, driving back, the amount of time that I stay there varies depending on the patient. So
Right.
it really isn't all that time consuming. It's not what people might think like, oh my goodness, I have to do this, this, this. You really don't. It truly is rewarding. So then from your perspective, since you've been in this role now, you said a little over a year, um, what does meaningful companionship look like in hospice care? And how do volunteers support both the patients and their families?
So, meaningful companionship can mean different things to different patients. Some of our patients are ambulatory, they can have full conversation, they're communicative, they like to do activities, they get out of their spaces. So, that companionship could be, taking them to a program within their community, taking them for a walk, on a nice day, taking them outside for a walk, um, playing a game with them. But for some of our patients who are nonverbal, who are, bedbound, meaningful companionship could mean sitting with them, holding their hand, listening to music, reading to them from a book from their that they might enjoy. So meaningful companionship is different to everyone involved.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the woman I was just with, um, for example, she loved to watch Murder She Wrote. We would just go back to her room and sit and watch Murder She Wrote, and she would just love to chat about it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, just
But
having someone there. Too, you know, I often say, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that, you know, our patients, a lot of times the only visitors they have are doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, and emotional family members. To have just someone coming in to watch Murder, She Wrote with them, to be able to talk about the show, to just laugh about something that happens, or just that presence there that's non-judging and non-emotional about what's going on in life is just it's you can't put a number on it.
no, no, you can't. You can't. And the patient before that, he just loved to tell the story about his life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as a family member who's gone through that, I'm sure that can get frustrating for the family members. Oh God, here they go again.
For that again.
Yes. But for somebody new, I thought it was endearing. And I loved listening to his stories, and each week it had a little nuance. So it wasn't always the same. He brought maybe another character in. It was lovely. So then how does that then in turn help support the families?
So it supports the families by knowing that when they can't be there, someone else is there. Knowing that their loved one is has an extra person in their life that's giving them support and showing them compassionate companionship and being empathetic to what's going on in their life. So just knowing that gives the family peace of mind. A lot of our caregivers are children of our patients. They're still working full time. They're raising families. A lot of our patients that caregivers are in what we like to call the sandwich generation, where they're taking care of their children and their elderly parents. So they've got a lot going on in their life. So to know that there's someone else there that's willing to just give that little extra for their loved one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I have a young lady who volunteers with me, and she sings Carnatic music, which is Indian classical music.
Oh, wow.
And she was visiting with one of our patients, and she gained such a connection with the family because the family, when the first time we visited, the son said to us, "I'm not really into this kind of music. And if someone had asked me to go, I would have been like, absolutely not." But to see the impact that it has on my mom is unbelievable. And that volunteer visited with that patient for about 6 or 7 weeks before the patient passed on. And she had made such an impact on the family that they asked her to come to the funeral service and sing.
Oh, wow. No, that's beautiful.
There's so much impact that you can have without even realizing the impact that you have.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. I'm actually gonna cry. That was beautiful.
Yeah, such an amazing story. And the young lady, she came into volunteering kind of on accident. She was like, "I kind of think I want to do it. I do this on the side, and I just want to make a difference." And it took us a while to find her the right family, the right patient. And she was really nervous. And then all of a sudden, then she had texted me afterwards and was like, "Thank you so much." And I'm like, "I didn't do anything. All I did was put you there. You made all that impact, you know?"
And that is, I mean, you've already really said this, unless you have something more to say. I mean, this really makes Embracing Hospice Care unique, in the way that your organization approaches patient support and emotional care and volunteer involvement. Is there anything else that maybe you haven't touched on that adds to the uniqueness of Embracing Hospice Care?
I mean, just in general, we do a holistic approach where it's like it's not just about um, the patient's medical, it's mind, body, and spirit. We have a social worker that makes visits. We have a chaplain that's available to make visits. If someone is not Christian, we can get any flat for the word.
Religious leader.
Yeah, any type of religious leader to visit with the patient, volunteers. It's just there's more to hospice care than just the comfort and the medication. It's really about mind, body, and spirit. We want that person to go into this experience and with dignity and comfort and quality of care, obviously.
Or absolutely. Well, that is. Um, do you find, just kind of like off the beaten path here for a second, um, the families who are reaching out? I mean, they're reaching out because this is something that they're looking to add for their family member, something that they feel that they need because they can't provide it. And is it? I know a lot of times the patient themselves may be in dementia, suffering from Alzheimer's, whatever, or some other things that are going on in their lives. And for instance, how can I explain this best? Like one of my patients, he was very depressed. Like he just kept saying, I'm at the end. This is it for me. So is it a nudge? And he was also, had a little dementia as well. So is it the family that's making the push, or do you see that the patients are somehow involved in this decision making as well?
The decision for hospice care or the decision for a volunteer?
For a volunteer.
So the decision for the volunteer is kind of made at the very beginning. So when a patient is being signed on for hospice, whether they're making that decision to come on to hospice or the family members are making that decision, obviously that decision is made from a team of people, doctors, nurses, it's not just I think I want to be on hospice.
Right. Sure.
So when the decision has been made,
right.
The family has to sign consents in order for that family member to be on hospice care. In that consent packet, there is a form that they fill out, whether they're interested in a volunteer or not, and what kind of volunteers that we offer, because we do have other types of volunteers besides companionship. We have pet therapy volunteers, we have Reiki volunteers, we have massage therapy volunteers, we have what other kind of, I have so many types of volunteers now, I can't even keep track.
People who come and give haircuts.
Yeah, I have a lovely young lady that came and gave a haircut to a patient that truly wanted her haircut. But yeah, so there's so many different types of volunteers that the patients can have in their lives. So the family members fill out that form saying, yes, I'm interested in a volunteer, and these are the types of things that I would like for my loved one. Or they can say, no, I decline a volunteer. And just because they decline a volunteer at the beginning doesn't necessarily mean that they can never have a volunteer. I have made many phone calls after meeting patients, because I like to go out in the fields and meet our patients. I think it helps me to place them. If I've met a patient that I truly feel would benefit from having a volunteer, I will reach out to the family and say, hey, I know that in the beginning you had declined the volunteer for John Smith, but I have this amazing volunteer that I think would really connect with him. Do you think it would be okay if we tried it out? And then I get all kinds of information from the family about their loved ones, so that my volunteers go in knowing a little bit about their patient, so that way they can really connect with them and make them feel comfortable because they already know a little bit about them.
Has there ever, so clearly then obviously it's the family who has to make that decision, because for whatever reason the patient can't make those decisions. But has there ever been a time, and maybe you can't answer this, where a patient, because now I'm curious, where you felt, they would benefit, the family's like, yeah, let's just do this, but then the patient is just like, absolutely not, I don't want to have anybody here?
I have had patients that have sent my volunteers right out of the room.
My mother's done that. My mother did that.
I have had patients that have been, the volunteer goes to sit with them and they're like, yeah, you know what? No. I had a family member that thought that their loved one would love Reiki, and the Reiki volunteer went to the patient, and the patient was like, yeah, you know what? I'm really not into this witchcrafty stuff. Maybe it will work with someone else, but I'm just really not into it. And that just because they say it one time, like if we have a companion volunteer go and the patient's like, yeah, no, I don't need anybody right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to volunteer. It means that they're not having the best day that moment. And, I'm all for trying again.
That's great. That's because it is very human. It's a very raw moment, because And I understand because my mom, she passed from complications to Alzheimer's. So what comes out of their mouth is just,
Yeah, I try to give my volunteers a heads up, like, oh, this patient's a little difficult. It may not be the smoothest transition. Don't take anything personally, depending on how they're feeling today or what the mood they're in. You can never tell.
you can't. And, and then sometimes they'll say things and it's just so funny. And it's like, wow,
Yeah, I strive to have no filter as a senior.
I guess it's absolutely liberating. Don't really know what's going on, how they're feeling internally. I can only imagine, or I can't. But in those moments, when they do make you laugh, I think something inside of them also clicks because there's a little smile that perks up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I personally love a feisty senior.
Yeah. Yes, me too. Me too. Yes. My woman was wonderful. Um, so then speaking of human elements, what has your work taught you about humanity, aging, and the way people want to be cared for at the end of life?
People just want to be comfortable. They want to know that they're getting quality care and that they're being treated with dignity. It's really about dignity and quality of care and comfort. In the end, that's how we all want, right? We all want to be comfortable. We all want to, make sure that we're not in distress, and that's what we strive to give them, that human touch, that human contact, that comfort, whether that comfort is you know puppy love from pet therapy, whether it's somebody to sit by their side and listen to quiet music and hold their hand, or whether that comfort is they're in pain and they need medication to help with that. It's all about ending life with dignity.
Hmm. I'm not, and I don't, again, some of these things are just popping into my head as I'm listening to you, because I'm wondering, because, by the time a patient needs hospice care, they really can't identify that they need hospice care. Or I don't know, maybe if they're not suffering from dementia, they can. I don't know, because I'm not on that end. And I understand you're not either. That being said, let's circle back down before people even get ill. Let's say somebody knows your organization's volunteered for your organization. Can you put that in your living will? If something were to happen to me where I would need yada, 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 I would like to use, if they're still around, Embracing Hospice Care. Do you know if that's a possibility?
I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that you can absolutely do that. You can put crazier things have been put into wills.
Yeah, because then you really do have a hand in, I've met these people. They took care of my mother, for instance.
Right.
They do the pet therapy. They offer Reiki. They offer these things. And even if I'm telling you I'm not interested, I may be interested. So I'm going to put this here and
Right.
look.
Yeah. Honestly, I've seen stranger things put into end of life care plans.
And then in some sense, they have a little bit of control as to
Absolutely.
that dignity at the end of their life that somebody else isn't making their decision. Because what happens, our children leave, they have their own lives, they start to grow their own families, and then we turn into different versions of ourselves, truly. That's what I do now. Second act career changes for people
Right.
who just like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to grow. So that's what I'm doing. And that's what I help other people do. And so this is at the point where now I'm going to make sure, and then you're asking your child or whomever is in your will to make these decisions when maybe for now 20, 30 years they're not living with you anymore. they don't really, they know you as you were as their parent, which is different for the however many children you have. You're a different
Right.
parent for each one of your children. So that's going to be different in 20, 30 years from now. So I don't know, just kind of like, now you have me thinking about other things. It's just, it's just very interesting. I'm going to go change my will. Um, so then this was something you wanted to offer, common myths and misconceptions about
Yeah.
hospice.
So after you and I spoke the other day, I went to one of our development team, actually our director of our development team, and asked him, like, so what are some of the things that you come across that families, think about hospice? Because most people go, oh my God, hospice. No, absolutely not. You know, people think that choosing hospice means that they're giving up.
Mm.
Um, when there's no longer a cure possible, hospice provides the type of care that most people say they want at end of life. They want comfort and quality of life, right? So that's what hospice gives them. And the most common statement made by families who choose hospice for their loved one is, we wish we had known about hospice sooner.
Mm.
Um, Another thing that, I don't want to leave my home to go to a hospice, where hospice is not a freestanding facility. It's a philosophy of care. A majority of hospice takes place in homes. It can be wherever the patient is, surrounded by their family and familiar settings. And whether their home is, the residence that they lived in with a loved one, or whether it's an assisted living or a nursing facility, like any place the patient is, that's where hospice goes. So you don't have to go somewhere different just because you're on hospice.
Right.
One of the other myths that I brought up was that hospice care keeps dying people heavily medicated. And one of the things that I actually found is that pain management is very specialized and tailored to each individual. If the pain that the patient is having can be controlled by Tylenol, that's what they're given, and we also utilize other methods for pain and symptom control, emotional and spiritual support to that person, and their loved ones. So we also provide unlimited bereavement once the patient passes. So we're not keeping the person highly medicated. We're only giving them the medication that they need in order to be comfortable, which is the main goal for anyone, right? Um, Hospice means that there are only a few days left to live. That is not true. Hospice is available to anyone with a life-limiting illness, that if that illness is to take its normal course, the prognosis is 6 months or less. Not everybody's body is the same. We've had patients on service for 3-4 years because although they have that life-limiting illness, their body's just not ready to give up yet. So just because someone comes on hospice doesn't mean that they are going to die imminently. We don't make death come sooner, And I know that you had originally asked me a question about like graduating off of hospice. So I actually asked about that as well. And, hospice is not a curative philosophy, but sometimes when the pain from whatever is their life limiting illness, when that pain subsides, they visibly seem better, and they seem to be better and they're doing better. So at that point, they would no longer qualify for the care and that extra support. So they would come off service. So it's really, they're not better. It's just that their bodies are reacting so well to the comfort.
Mm.
Um, And then the last myth about hospice is that without private insurance, you cannot afford good end of life care when you need it. Hospice is covered by Medicare, Medicaid, most HMOs, and almost all insurance companies. Hospice is something that we've been paying into our entire lives. It is available to everyone, and it's completely free on Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance.
Mm. I mean, I can attest to so much of what you said. First of all, just a personal, my parents had hospice care in the house. They were side by side, in both on hospice care. You know, dad had pancreatic cancer. Mom was at the end of Alzheimer's. They both, I think I've told you this, they died within 2 days of each other. He died Friday morning. She died Sunday morning. The hospice care was incredible. This was down in South Jersey. They were wonderful. I mean, they helped us so much throughout this process. And yes, insurance paid for it. And it was covered. And it really did help at the end, with their particular illnesses. Volunteering, that's why I asked about that question, because these two people who I'm growing very fond of, and I'm kind of getting prepared of when, okay, like, just preparing myself. And then they're doing better. They don't need the service anymore. And I'm like, wow, astounded. Wonderful. It was such a great experience for me to have witnessed that. So yeah, everything you're saying, I can truly attest to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So I'm grateful that you clarified that, because I too was curious. I was like, what did I do? Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. It's like, oh, what happened there? That's that for them. I was happy.
Right, right. Yeah.
So then, how can someone learn? 'Cause let's say somebody wants to give back, and they're feeling that they want to be of service. How can they learn if whether volunteering for Embracing Hospice Care would be for them?
It's a simple meeting with me. We can have a phone conversation. I can do a Zoom call if they're not local or they are not available frequently, or an in-person meeting to sit down and go over exactly what the expectations are, to really see where they are in their life and what they're looking to get out of it. And we can really assess whether it is the right fit for them.
Right. And then from there, because I know I've been through the process, then what can you just, for somebody who would like to become a volunteer after hearing this, can you just go through the process of,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So once we meet, during our first initial meeting, we'll usually go over the application process, which is, basic general information about yourself. Then there's policies and procedures that get signed, consent to do a background check, because we do background checks. We are working with compromised individuals who are obviously, you know, in a position that they can be taken advantage of. So we do background checks on all of our volunteers. Then there is the medical clearance section of our process, which, by the way, we are Medicare certified. Therefore, we have to follow Medicare protocol for everything. So our medical clearance is a medical clearance statement signed by your physician. You have to have a TB test done or a quantiferon gold blood test, which tells us that you do not have TB in your system. There's an MMR titers blood test that has to be done, which tells us how many immunities you carry for measles, mumps, and rubella. There is a consent to do a urine test for illegal substances and a flu shot. Once all of that is done, then we get together and there's an education session that we do. It's about 2.5 hours. It's really a hospice 101. So we go over the history of hospice care, the history of embracing hospice care. We go over the role of all of our team members and the do's and don'ts of volunteering. So it really gives you a good basis for what to expect once you're in the field. And then once all of that's done and the background check's done, we do a placement day where I go with you for your first visit. I introduce you to the new patient. I introduce you to the facility. I let you do a short visit for as long as you'd like. And then once you're done with your visit, we go over the 1-page paperwork that needs to be completed for each time you visit.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
No, but it's funny because I've been through it, and it's not as long as it actually sounds. It sounds like it's
very long. And most people, the first question they ask me is, how long does the process take? And there is no definitive answer for that. I have had volunteers that I've met with on a Wednesday, and by Monday morning, they have every single piece of paperwork that I need in my email box. I've also had volunteers that I've met with in November, and in July, I'm still following up with them. Hey, I'm still missing this piece of paperwork. Do you have this yet?
Yeah.
So it really depends on motivation, the ability to get into a doctor's appointment, and all of that, really.
Wow. Yeah, and it is. It's getting to the doctor, finding your vaccination records.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, overall,
anymore.
But volunteering for hospice to me is the most rewarding thing, and it's the best way to give back to people that are in a compromised situation, that we really just want them to live their best life until they don't anymore.
Yeah, it's a great rewarding experience. I mean, there's so much that I can say, but for, the person who may be listening right now thinking, that maybe this is something that, they'll discuss this obviously with their doctors, but, and they're looking for hospice care as they're going through this. What's your final bit of advice for them?
Take the advice of your physician. Know your loved one. If, hospice really is a support team. We're there to support the family. We're there to support the patient. We want to make sure that everyone is comfortable, that everyone is feeling safe and secure in their decisions. The best advice I can give you is check it out. It doesn't mean that tomorrow is the last day. It just means that there will be more support and quality along the way.
That means so much, because when you're in the middle of these decisions that have to be made, having that support from a team of people who really work in the field. You may have family members who you can lean on, but everybody's kind of grieving at
Right.
that moment, and decision making is so difficult. And I know this personally. So having a team of people around you who are making those decisions really meant the world.
Right.
Collaboratively, because they're not really making the decisions, but we're working together to make those decisions.
Right.
And it was extremely helpful. So thank you so much for your time today, Gail. I know you're so busy, and I so appreciate you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And, just getting our name out there to get more volunteers, because there's never enough volunteers.
Absolutely. And hopefully.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Gail, once again, I'd like to thank you for bringing clarity, compassion, and humanity to this conversation. Hospice is one of those chapters in life that many families fear. Yet, after walking through it personally, as you've all heard, and now as a volunteer, I've seen the profound beauty in dignity, connection, and support. To anyone listening, if you know somebody who's going through this, please share this episode with them. If hospice care is part of your story, or if you're considering volunteering, I hope this conversation opened a window The information to reach out to Gail, the website for Embracing Hospice Care, and her email will be in the show notes. And if this conversation resonated with you, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and join me at coachingwithmissd.com for more tools, coaching, and resources to help you through the grief and all that life throws at us. So, until next time, take a deep breath, keep sipping, keep growing, keep being of service, and remember to live your life as your authentic self, your version, no one else.